Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad-Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 5, The Cause of All Causes. And this morning, we're fortunate enough to have His Holiness Candramauli Swami to give us a class. This is text 37. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
You know him? You know that devotee? No. He was Suya's husband from, what's his name? Parikshit.
Parikshit.
Yeah. Parikshit,
Yes,
come
yes,
online. Let's see your beautiful face. Come online here. Just for a minute. Let's see here. Where are you? We have to get you back to the. Oh, good. Where are you? Are you there?
Is that me? Yes, I can.
Yeah, throw on the screen. Let me see.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, I just want to offer my obeisances to you. So come online.
Okay.
There he is. You know him?
It's familiar.
You know Mahaprabhu?
I don't know that we've met yet. But
Mahaprabhu Chaitanya, he's from Ghana, I think.
oh, I see. What part of Ghana?
Accra.
Accra. Okay, so you speak Ghana. You speak Chi?
Yeah.
I'm Fanti from Secondly.
Oh,
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, he's a great soul.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share my screen again. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Purushasya Mukham Brahman Chatram Etasya Bhavaha Purvam Vaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Sudro Vajayata. Translation. The Brahmins represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Sudras are born of his legs. So here we get the Varnashram system, or we get the Varna system. Purport. All living beings are stated to be parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and how they are so is explained in this verse. The four divisions of human society, namely the intelligent class, Brahmanas, the administrative class, the Kshatriyas, the mercantile class, the Vaishyas, and the laboring class, the Sudras, are all in different parts of the body of the Lord. As such, no one is different from the Lord. The mouth of the body and the legs of the body are non-different constitutionally, but the mouth or the head of the body is qualitatively more important than the legs. At the same time, the mouth, the legs, the arms, and the thighs are all component parts of the body. These limbs of the body of the Lord are meant to serve the complete whole. The mouth is meant for speaking and eating. The arms are meant for protection of the body. The legs are meant for carrying the body, and the waist of the body is meant for maintaining the body. The intelligent class, where are we?
I'll just do it
Okay,
again.
I got it. The intelligent class in society, therefore, must speak on behalf of the body as well as accept foodstuffs to satisfy the hunger of the body. The hunger of the Lord is to accept the fruits of sacrifice. The Brahmins or the intelligent class must be very expert in performing such sacrifices, and the subordinate classes must join in such sacrifices. To speak of the Supreme Lord means to glorify the Lord by means of propagating the knowledge of the Lord as it is, broadcasting the factual nature of the Lord and the factual position of all other parts of the whole body. The Brahmins, therefore, are required to know the Vedas and the ultimate source of knowledge. Veda means knowledge, and Anta means the end of it. According to Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is the source of everything, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, and thus the end of all knowledge, Vedanta, is to know the Lord, to know our relationship with Him, and to act according to that relationship only. The parts of the body are related to the body. Similarly, the living beings must know his relationship with the Lord. The human life is especially meant for this purpose, namely, to know the factual relationship of every living being with the Supreme Lord. Without knowing this relationship, the human life is spoiled. The intelligent class of men, the Brahmanas, are therefore especially responsible for broadcasting this knowledge of our relationship with the Lord and leading the general mass of people to the right path. The administrative class is meant for protecting the living beings so they can serve this purpose. The mercantile class is meant for producing food grains and distributing them to the complete human society so that the whole population is given a chance to live comfortably and discharge the duty of human life. The mercantile class is also required to give protection to the cows in order to get sufficient milk and milk products, which alone can give the proper health and intelligence to maintain a civilization perfectly meant for knowledge of the absolute truth. The laborer class, who are neither intelligent nor powerful, can help by physical service the other higher classes and thus be benefited by their cooperation. Therefore, the universe is a complete unit in relationship with the Lord. And without this relationship with the Lord, the whole human society is disturbed and is without any peace and prosperity. This is confirmed in the Vedas, Brahmano Shyam Mukum Asid Bahu Rajnaya Kritaha. Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Vanchakopa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Pe Bacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is part of the system, which is the ideal society, which is the social body of the ideal system. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnya Mayasrista Guna Karma Vibhagasaha. By guna and by work, by qualities and work, one is designated accordingly. And here we see the essential principles are four: the head, the arms, the belly, and the legs, which make up a body. So the social environment also needs to function in an organized way. And so that way, one can make progress as a foundation for performing spiritual life. Without this material arrangement, society is just topsy-turvy. People are engaged not according to their nature, but according to a profit motivation. So we see in today's modern civilization, modern society, the motivating force is money. and work is there, but it is subordinate. People want to make a living or get money so they can fulfill their desires for sense needs and sense gratification. And so people are working not according to their nature, and actually people don't even know what is actually their nature. Therefore, there has to be a process by which education will be an instrumental in bringing about people's awareness of their nature. And that is engaging people by educating them in the different categories: Brahminical education, organizational education, Kshatriyas, practical understanding of Vaishya responsibilities such as taking care of cows, banking, commerce, agriculture, like that. And Sudras, they're the general mass of people who do their common labor in order to support the other three varnas. So when Prabhupada first started the movement in 1966, he talked a lot about this and how we need to organize society based on this. And he was very enthusiastic to speak about it and to emphasize that without Varna, and then of course ashram, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas, the society cannot function properly because it's not an organized society, and people have positions that are outside of their swadharma, or their designated material nature. So Prabhupada was saying that we need to organize society. But then in 1970, actually, after a few years, Prabhupada could see that Western society was impossible to restructure. So rather than putting emphasis on that, he put emphasis on the spiritual part. That was always there, but now he put full emphasis on. So let's bring people in and educate them in spiritual knowledge based on Shastra, engage them in service to the Lord, and especially the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that went on for many years. So the emphasis was on book distribution, Harinam, education based on classes on Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion. But in 1974, Prabhupada changed his focus because he was seeing that many of the devotees in our movement were not, even though they were chanting Hare Krishna, they couldn't stay fixed in devotional service. So then he said, well, we need to establish this Varna and ashram now. So after rejecting it as a general principle for the Western culture, now Prabhupada was wanting to adopt it for the ISKCON society. And he very carefully and systematically, in great detail, outlined the whole process for development, which centered around a college, which he called the Varnashram College. And that is that training a class of Brahmins who would be the teachers for the other Varnas. And they would teach the various skills along with Brahminical activities to others. And based on the teaching, there would be a evaluation. And we then, based on that evaluation, people would be designated accordingly. You can do Brahminical service. You're inclined to management and protection. You're more inclined to work with the fields, like that. So based on an inclination and evaluation system, and then designating people to serve in a certain way. And Prabhupada kept that all the way to the end of his time, especially in 1977, his last year with us, he really emphasized we need to establish this Varnashram. But he called it Daivi Varnashram because if you see, there are different types of Varnashram. There's materialistic Varnashram. There is the abrogated form of material of Varnashram called the caste system. Oh, there's different offshoots. But Prabhupada's idea was to educate, evaluate, designate, and engage people, devotees, in serving the Lord in a Brahminical service, in a service that would be considered Kshatriyas, martial, those who are martial spirited, and also have a tendency for organization. The Vaishnavas, who like to work with animals, are good at that, and they know they do farming, they do banking, they do commerce, they do growing various types of foodstuffs. And then the Sudras don't need education, they just can assist according to the need. And then Prabhupada pushed that for the remainder of the time he was here. And so far as a society, we haven't fully adopted that, although there are what we say inklings of these things happening in different places throughout the ISKCON society. But Prabhupada said this will be the success when one works according to their swadharma, their nature. They become very creative, they become enthusiastic to do that service, and they can stay fixed in their service. In other words, because it's their nature, they're good at it and they like it. So that was Prabhupada's, and but it's all centered around education. Because without an organized social system, things are somewhat, what we say, hit and miss. Hit and miss means we fill in wherever the need is there. And a lot of times when we try to fill in whatever the need is there, we fill in the wrong way. We may take a person who is very martial spirited and give him a Brahminical post. And then what happens is, he wants to take over the post. In other words, he is more inclined to be in charge. Kshatriyas have the tendency to rule. They have the mood of protection for those that they take care of, or those who they rule. And they're there if there's any need to protect both the deities, the devotees, the temples, the system, like that. They're fighters also. Not aggressors, but protectors. So, yeah. So this is what was Srila Prabhupada's program. And without this, and you see in today's society, Prabhupada speaks a lot of this. You put a man in post, he's like a president or a head of a state, but he doesn't know how to organize things. He usually hires other people to do the organization for him. And he is supposedly giving the orders like that. And then you have the Brahminical class in today's society is not even considered to be important. No one takes advice from the spiritual areas. That's why many years ago, I think at least more than 1,000 years ago, they separated church and state. Because the church actually, in many places around the world, after the time of Christ and for many hundred years after, were the ruling power within the society. But as we developed towards the more modernistic society, it was seen that, the church doesn't really know how to rule. They should do their spiritual process. And therefore they have a distinct service and not related to anyone else. But here, the Brahmins or the priestly class are meant to give guidance to the other three varnas, and they're educators also. They don't do any practical work. They're more like visionaries. They study the Vedas. They teach the Vedas. They worship the deity. They teach others how to do that. And they can also collect charitable gifts to maintain themselves. And when they have extra, they always can give that in charity to where it's required. The Kshatriyas, what are their duties? They're good managers, their organization. They have a vision of how to organize people, how to organize finances, how to organize systems. And they have that natural inclination. And they're usually good managers. They like to take care of people. The Brahmins also like to take care of people. The Brahmins are more universal. The Kshatriyas are more local. The Kshatriyas usually deal with the people that they're working directly. The Brahmins are more concerned about people in general, as far as their welfare and their needs are concerned. And the Kshatriyas also, if there's a need to protect the temples or the devotees or the deities, they're ready to fight. And they're also good fighters. They're not cowards. Prabhupada was talking about this in one lecture where one person was saying to Prabhupada, you know, all you guys do is just chant Hare Krishna. Prabhupada said, yes, that is our main duty for practicing our Yuga Dharma, spiritual life. But when there's a need for fight, we can fight also. Prabhupada said, Vaishnavas are not cowards. They can fight. And Prabhupada mentioned two wars, the Battle of Lanka with Sri Ram and the Battle of Kurukshetra with Sri Krishna, where Prabhupada said the Vaishnavas and Vishnu were victorious in both. As if the Kshatriyas have to fight, they will fight. And they also find that it's something that gives them great pleasure to be able to protect others. The Vaishyas, they take care of animals, particularly cows, other animals also. They can organize farms, teach people how to grow food, also how to maintain that type of lifestyle. They're also good at collecting money and using money to put it back into, the needs of society. Vaishyas like that. They're farmers, but they can also do banking and business too. The Sudras, they can do arts and crafts. That's usually what occupation they can do separate. But generally, when there's a need, they're supporting the rest of the society by doing common labor like that. So when you have these four groups functioning in a systematic way, you have a ideal social environment. And then when you add the spiritual element, it takes off. Because if the social environment is up in the air and unorganized, it becomes more difficult for people to practice Krishna consciousness or spiritual life because the support system is not there. Of course, one can practice Krishna consciousness in any situation. It's not dependent on anything. But Prabhupada saw that devotees were falling down in Krishna consciousness, although they were reading the books, they were chanting Hare Krishna. Therefore, he said, we need to establish this Varna and Ashram within our society as the foundation to teach and to preach, but at the same time, to be an example for the rest of the world how an ideal society can work. So this is Srila Prabhupada's vision. And when he left the world, he said this wasn't given enough attention or development. Therefore, he said, 50% of my mission is still left unfulfilled. We have to develop this Van Ashram system. And he says, the only place we can do it is on the farms. You can't do it in the cities. The cities are too topsy-turvy. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and then you see the different functions here. Prabhupada gives a very elaborate explanation of a body and the different activities of the body and how each part of the body has a very important part to make the body healthy and wholesome by fulfilling their need like that. But in establishing this, at least within the society, Prabhupada said we have to have an educational system because Kalo Sudra Sambhavan, people who are in this age are born Sudra. They don't know what is their actual, and they may surreptitiously or pretentiously adopt a particular category of activity because either because they like it or because it has some good, pecuniary benefits like that. But that won't work. That won't work. And then you have people, as Prabhupada said, you have government leaders that are, they're more or less just exploiting the people rather than giving the people what they need. So everything's upside down. Okay, but in our society, it is loosely organized in that way. Some people in our society, some devotees are working according to their nature, but it's not done in an organized way. And therefore, the society is somewhat slow in developing because things are not done in the way that is described here. Each of the four varnas serve the Lord accordingly in a systematic way, and each represents a part of the system of social, and of course the spiritual is there according to the ashram. Okay, we'll stop.
Thank
See if there's any comments or questions.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for explaining these varnas and the importance of how it should fit into society and where things are now. And so this Varnashram system is still upon us. Srila Prabhupada said it was 50% of his work, as you were pointing out. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I would request the devotees to turn on the cameras. This is the time to join in Krishna Katha. Maharaj is here. If you have any questions, please unmute yourself, or you can raise your electronic hand up also, or type in the chat.
Questions if you want.
Anyone who's ready?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, August Shri Prabhupada. This is Anasuya Maharaj.
She's in the temple.
Haribol Maharaj, I'm leaving the temple. Maharaj, I have a question, and thank you for really breaking down the varnas and the ashrams. It's so in a simplified manner. Maharaj, you mentioned a point in the earlier part of your lecture that sometimes people don't even know their own nature. And sometimes they may know. And then when you started breaking down the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Sudra, and how they can, distinct themselves in terms of their nature. Sometimes we see, Maharaj, that there is a cross between someone being a Brahmana and a Kshatriya. Like, for example, of course, not that we have that in today's time, I don't think, like Dronacharya, he was a Brahmana and a Kshatriya. So in today's time, Maharaj, because we are in the age of Kali Yuga, if that happens or does that happen, then how does one, draw the line or act out and all that?
Well, there are people who are mixed varnas, and that is also due to the heritage they come from. you know, they might have a Kshatriya mother and a Brahmin father. So they may have be a mixed Varna like that. But in the case of Dronacharya, that was an emergency. Case of Asvatthama, his son, that was an emergency. So the Brahmins can take another role only in emergency situations. But there are people with mixed varnas, and sometimes we find that, you know, if you mix Brahmins and Kshatriyas in terms of the activities and consciousness, you can do that for a while. You know, the Kshatriyas also can preach Krishna consciousness because they're of the higher caste. The Brahmins and the Kshatriyas of the two of the higher caste, they're more inclined to intelligence and organization and philosophical teachings, both. But when it comes right down to organization, then everyone has to play that role that is conducive to their particular nature. So yeah, there are mixed varnas like that, based on birth or based on certain tendencies like that. But it takes a system to somewhat weed out the differences and then engage people accordingly. Like that, just like, you know, the traveling sannyasis, they're considered to be Brahmins because they more or less are giving spiritual knowledge. They're also worshiping the deity like that. But sometimes they manage. Just like our GBC, we have many of the Brahmins are in the role of a GBC, which is a managerial role. But that was due to what we say, time, place, and circumstance. So they can do that sometimes, but when it comes to, you know, an ideal system, then it has to be done distinctly according to one's evaluation and one's particular nature. Like Prabhupada had one particular devotee, his name was Karandar. He was an expert manager. And when Prabhupada needed something, he went to Karandar, and Karandar would always come up with an ideal arrangement. So yeah, Kshatriyas are good. An actual Kshatriya is a good manager. They know how to manage things. They can manage money, they can manage people, they can manage systems. But you don't always have the ideal, so sometimes people jump from Varna to Varna or service to service like that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Is
Thank
that
you very much.
helpful?
Yes, Marge, absolutely. Especially when you said that, you know, and, you know, when you mentioned Dronacharya, you know, when he had, you know, it was of need that he jumped into the Kshatriya field. And then you talked about, you know, devotees in general, because us, you know, and even GBCs, you know, it's just the, you know, time, place, and circumstance. Yes, very helpful, Marge. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj. So, devotees, you have other questions, please raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask a question.
There's one in the chat.
We have
Okay, yeah.
Mother
can-
Olga is here. She has her
Okay.
hand.
Okay. Please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Hare Krishna dear devotees, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, if I understand correct, the Varnashram system can work in quite elevated, let's say, level of consciousness. How do we overcome the problem of greed and envy? You know, because it looks like some people who are closer to power, closer to money, they have more resources. So how will it function, if the people do not achieve certain level of consciousness?
Well, yeah, that's the spiritual part. And spiritual part is meant to bring about the proper consciousness. You can't have just Varna. You have to have, the spiritual aspect, which is, devotion to the Lord, service to the spiritual master.
So
So that to be there, and the spiritual master is teaching us, that whatever role you in, Prabhupada used to say, one should not take anything for one's personal needs, but should be able to use everything for the service of the Lord. Krishna will provide for our personal needs. But when you have that, then you have a problem. And that creates a little disharmony in the whole system. But people who continue in that vein will eventually be thrown out of their situation when it becomes obvious. Krishna will throw them out after some time. Sometimes they go on for a while, though.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, there's nobody's hands up. There's a question in the chat, and so I'll read it. Hare Krishna. From Vishava Prabhu. Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev, and Vaishnavas, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to you, Prabhupada, and all glories to you, Gurudev. People are of mixed varna generally, so people can be a mixture of Shudra and Brahmana. How to train such persons who have many different inclinations? That's his first question. Here's a follow-up, but about GBC. Maybe take the first question, but unless you want to hear both.
Yeah. Well, that's the purpose of the Varnashram College, is to educate, and that education is meant to bring out a person's swadharma, her nature. And once that becomes clear, that's called the evaluation system. And then once that is understood, then they can work accordingly. Example was that one time the Gurukul teacher came to see Srila Prabhupada, and we had a Gurukul in Hyderabad, and he was giving the report on the children. And we were educating everyone in the Brahminical vein when we first started. Everyone was getting Brahminical education, but both the children and the devotees. So, because Prabhupada he knew first I have to establish a system of Brahmins before we can unfold the other Varnas. So in describing what was going on in the classroom to Prabhupada by the teacher, he said there was one boy, he couldn't learn, and he was always disrupting the class and making it difficult for everyone else to learn. And then he described, in detail. And Prabhupada said, oh, obviously he's not meant for that education. Take him and put him out and let him work in the farms. Let him work in the fields or doing farm work like that. So yeah, when you see those who are inclined towards a certain varna, then you can designate in that way. And that's the quality of a Brahmin. He can not only educate, but he can also have the vision to see how that education is actually revealing the person's nature. Because the teachers would be the Brahmanas, as Prabhupada said. And on a collective basis. Not that every Brahmin teaches every, activity. This collectively, all of the activities are there within the Brahminical class.
Hare Krishna.
But
Thank you very much.
Without the educational system, there's no way to evaluate.
Okay. Right. His follow-up question is this. Regarding the GBC, it is maybe more useful of a GBC as purely managers, and then there's a council of brahmanas separately guiding them. This is how he put his question.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's the GBC is aware of that also. So now they have this thing called GBC College, which is a training program for candidates who are somewhat designated within their local areas to take the role of a GBC in the future. And then they get training for 1 year. Like that. And then they learn, these skills of managerial, but it's also spiritual education is also there with that. And what we have now is we have the GBC body, and then we have the Shastra, what is it called? The Shastra, Shastri Advisory Council. That's also been adopted within the last 20 years. And they are meant to give clarification on philosophical and spiritual points. But we do have people who are playing both Brahmins and Kshatriya roles who are GBC. But that's changing now. It's more downsizing. The Brahmins are more or less leaving that area and doing their preaching or writing books or dealing with their disciples. And the Kshatriyas are now becoming more and more, or those who are managerial inclined, they're becoming more and more the main body of the GBC. And that's needed like that. But the question is, are they taking advice from the Brahmins? We're not sure. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, it's a transition in itself. Hey, Krishna. So, Maharaja, I have a question. You mentioned the Varnashram College as where the devotees can literally be assessed, where the Varnas, the particular Varnas that they belong to, or they are more inclined to. How does one get in contact or become a student in this Varnashram College?
First, we got to establish the Varnashram College.
Oh, it's not there yet? I thought it was. Okay. All right. So that's something that's going to be done in the future.
We had one that was going on in Radhadesh, but then after some time, it stopped. As far as I know, at least around the society, there's no official Varnashram College.
Well, do you have any idea why it stopped? Because then we can learn our lessons from it.
Because there is a feeling that this thing is not so necessary. The leaders are divided, and because they say Prabhupada said forget about it, but actually he didn't. He said forget about it, but then do it on a spiritual level, not on the material side. So yeah, some people think it's a waste of time, or just chant Hare Krishna and follow the process, and that's good enough. Prabhupada started like that, but he saw people couldn't stay steady in their Krishna consciousness, and he understood that one of the reasons is they're not working according to their nature, not serving according to their nature.
Actually, Maharaj, this is so necessary.
Yeah.
Because I saw it in Girinagri also when we were there. We were putting all kinds of services, and some people struggled, and some people actually hated to do the service. But the idea was being preached that, do what's necessary. Do what's necessary.
Yeah,
and
but Prabhupada saw that at the beginning because he was moving fast to establish the movement. So he said, just do the service and you'll develop the tendency to do it. He's, but after some time, he saw people weren't able to stay steady. They couldn't stay steady in their service.
It's still going on, unfortunately. There
Yeah,
are some that are very steady and some that are not. Okay.
yeah,
Dhammadam, Prabhu? Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go on if you have to.
No, we have a loose form of anashram now. Yeah, there are people working according to their natures and others are not. But it's not organized within the system. Each temple should be organized where they have all of the four varnas working together in a spiritual way.
Yeah. Very true. I think it takes a questionnaire for people to answer that you know the background and so on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
Well,
idea.
then you get to know who you have and what the tendencies are and what they're going to do in the future or they would like to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it starts.
Prabhupada talked about this has to be developed on our farms, though. So the farms are the basis of developing the Varnashram system.
Hmm. So
Because
those of you, sorry.
without cow protection, there's no Brahminical culture.
Yeah. Thank you. This is so important
We
things.
got one question up there now.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Sarvanga, we got Sarvanga
Damodar.
No,
Sundar Damodar. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Do you want to ask the question from the chat first, or?
No, go
Well,
ahead. Go. Maharaj, next question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. All glories to the devotees on the call. I have a short question. Will the brahmacharis and vanaprasthas also come into the varnas? Like, will the brahmacharis also have the specific roles in the society, like Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra? Will they also be divided like that, or is just specific for Grihastha ashram?
well, the ashram will give a tendency. That is, like, for instance, brahmacharis are meant to read the scriptures, study the scriptures, and learn how to carry out instructions. But on that can also be organized according to the different activities. So you can have brahmacharis in each of the varnas. You can have kshatriyas in each of the varnas. You can have, grihastas in each of the varnas. Yeah. Sannyasis generally will be they'll mostly be Brahmins, but may also do some managing at times, but generally they're Brahmins. Yeah, so brahmacharis, they can also work on the farm. They can also manage.
So, Maharaj, what I'm hearing is a follow-up. There's a comment there, but what I'm hearing you say is that then the ashrams are pretty well established at this point. Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis.
Yeah, but
down to
still
the
education is required in each one of them. Although we designate, doesn't mean people are inclined or up to the standard in each one of their ashrams. Especially the brahmachari ashram needs some, I don't know, needs some understanding of what the roles they play in offering service. You can't give them every service because certain services will impinge upon their brahmachari vows,
Got some ways to go. Anyway, Vishaba Das Prabhu has a comment. again about the varnas. I heard there is a problem training mixed varnas because they don't have all the qualities of those varnas, but some of them. So we have a Kshatriya who is inclined to gross sense gratification, and in this way, it's very dangerous. But I guess with devotional influence, everything comes to its place. This is
Right.
common. Yeah.
Yeah. He answered the question. Varna alone is not, that's just material.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is Krishna conscious. It's all about Krishna consciousness. But to work in such a way is that your service is actually inspiring you in surrendering more in your Krishna consciousness.
So then, I guess what I'm hearing you say is that devotees, obviously, trying to go back to Godhead, the spiritual rule of law, the regulations have to be followed, and the chanting and the hearing is very important.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, we're devotees, we're Vaishnavas, but we're serving in a certain particular way. That's all. And that particular way is conducive to an organized social body, which is the foundation for the development of proper spiritual activities.
It's actually doable. It's not as difficult, but devotees have not been quite taken quite seriously.
Varna and ashram is material. It's not spiritual. Not spiritual at all. But that's why there is some division in our society about whether putting time, attention, and energy into it. But Prabhupada explained it, and he gave the emphasis on that we should do it, and he explained why we should do it. But there's still others that don't see the need and don't want to focus on it for whatever reason. And these are leaders too, so our leadership's divided in this area. Others would like to just, do programs, distribute books like that, reach out to people in different areas. That's also important. But the success of our society is when Prabhupada left, before he left, one night he was sitting doing his translation in the middle of the night, and his secretary, or his servant, not secretary, his servant would sit outside the room, sleeping there. And then Prabhupada, sometimes, if he needed something, he would ring his bell, the servant would wake up and come in. So in this case, it was Giriraj, Brahmachari, came in middle of the night, sat next to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at him and said, how will our society go on after I'm gone? So, and Giriraj thought for a while. Then he said, "Yes, we'll make sure devotees go to Mangalarti. We'll do book distribution. We'll have, all of the things that we do on the spiritual level." But Prabhupada completely said something different. He answered it. He said, "This society will go on by intelligence and organization. Organization and intelligence." So there's what we come to, what we're talking about. Organization in an intelligent way on our show.
Organization and intelligence.
Clear out some of you. Us too. Because like somebody draws things in there. Yeah, you can do it later if you want. You want to ask a question?
Yes.
We have Sri Devi is here with me.
Oh, okay.
You're wondering where she was, but
yeah, I was wondering. Yeah.
but here she's right here, and she has her question. So we're gonna
Go
let
ahead,
her.
Mataji. Accept my humble obeisances, God to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Guru Maharaj, I have a question exactly about this Varnashram and how we are trying to get human society to be more organized so that everyone can progress nicely. But even today, I hear young parents saying, oh, but we have to save up our money. We have to send our children to the big schools and then to the big colleges. They have to get into IIT, IIM. They have to have a professional career. Otherwise, how will they make it in life? And so on and so on and so on. So there's a heavy, especially in India, there's a huge emphasis on higher education in plum colleges, which require horrific, what to say, preparation. There are, full-fledged tuition classes so that you score like phenomenal, figures to get into these very elite colleges and have high education. And that will set you on a very good career. You make a lot of money and you'll also do Krishna consciousness. This is how they think. So with this thinking, how we can get them to accept farm communities, living on a farm, training the children.
Yeah, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to start with that. You're going to start by trying to make them devotees by chanting Hare Krishna and getting involved in some kind of spiritual activity. There's where you start.
Hmm.
Anyway, all of this big education, Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't give it much credence. He said modern education destroys the good qualities of the living entity. Modern education turns people into animals, he said. Because what do they learn, how to make money? Your education, what is the basis of your education? And so you can get a nice material situation. But education is not about that. Education is the understanding of the direction in life by which you can fulfill the need of life, which is self-realization.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual education, Brahma Vidya, not this Silpa Vidya, which is material education. Prabhupada said, computer operators, IT people, they're all Sudras. That's all they are. It's a big thing now. We're educating people. They're making a lot of money, but they're all doing Sudra work. Engineering is Sudra work. But where's the leadership? Where's the Brahminical culture, Brahminical guidance? Where is the managerial strength? I mean, where is the the foundation for feeding everyone in society and taking care of the animals? All this is part of a holistic society. Chaturvarnya Mayasrista Guna Karma Vibhagasaha. Krishna is saying this. These four varnas were created by me. I created it. He did it. Why? Because he knows the value of these things and how in an organized society, everything goes on. And at the same time, people can easily practice the goal of life, which is self-realization.
Mm. Any final question? Oh, sorry.
Yes, the spiritual is more important, but the material is foundational.
Mm. Hare Krishna. Any final questions or comments? I'm not hearing anybody. Okay, so
Maharaj,
Maharaj? Yeah.
I have a question. Maharaj, when we have heard in the Shastra that in Kali Yuga, everybody is a Sudra. And then at the same time, we are speaking about Varna and Ashram. So if everybody is a Sudra, Maharaj, then how can we fit ourselves into one of this
Education,
Varnas?
education,
Okay.
about education. Prabhupada was educating us, but he was giving us Brahminical education. He wasn't giving Kshatriya education or Vaishya education. He said, first we have to establish the Brahminical culture. So he was educating everyone in Shastra and in the qualities of the mode of goodness. Both of these things are foundational for Brahminical culture. That's first. That's been done. And that's, we might say we're successful on that level. But, now what about the other Varnas? They have to also be given, development. I'll give you an example. You come up to me and you say, Maharaj, give me a glass of milk. I say, all right, you walk down that road, you go about a half a mile, and then you look to the right, you'll see a barn. You make that right turn, you go to the barn, and there's a cow there. And you milk the cow and you can get your milk. So where's the organization? There's no organization. So if you want something or you need something, the system provides it automatically simply by the organization. When there's no organization, things don't get done. Things get either left aside or done in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Maharaj, what's coming to my mind, Maharaj, is the first purpose of the seven purpose mission the Prabhupada wrote to train and educate the society.
Yeah, that's why he put it number one.
Yeah, it's just all coming together. The Brahminical education is what Prabhupada put in the first purpose of the seven purpose of the mission. Wow.
Right. But then when he wanted to establish the Varnashram College, that's when he talked about developing these other Varnas. But he also, number 6 of the 7 principles was to teach people a more natural and simple type of lifestyle. And that's back to the farms. Or at least having that part of the culture there. Just like I just left Calcutta. So they have a project there. So they have a temple and they're building another temple, but they have cows and they're developing agriculture. But, devotees are chanting, they're dancing, they're going to classes, they're learning how to become devotees. But the breadbasket is there because there's cows, agriculture is developing. It's still in a development stage, but it's in the right direction. So we need this holistic society. That's why Prabhupada said you can't do this Van Ashram in the cities. You can only do it on the farms. Not that when you say farms, you think, oh, I got to wear a pair of overalls and big boots and I have to be out there, picking weeds. That's some people will do that. But there will also be, the intellectual class, there'll be the managerial class, there'll be others. It'll be everything society needs for social development will be within the more simplified lifestyle based on farm communities. It's not that everyone is out there, digging with hoes and shovels. Sometimes you think like that. Oh, back to the farm. Oh, no. I got to wear a straw hat.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. It's
But
needed. Hare Krishna.
If you want
Right.
more information, read my book called Krishna's Way, Natural Living. So
Yeah.
that book covers a lot of what we're talking about.
Mm. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Krishna Kaviraj, Prabhu?
Yeah, like Anasuya, we don't know whether she's a Brahmana or a Kshatriya.
Unfortunately, Maharaj.
Huh?
She's both Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, she's mixed Varna. She can, whatever role, she can do both, right?
That's what she's doing now. Yeah.
And she's
Out of
doing,
necessity.
she's worshiping in the temple. That's Brahminical. And she's organizing, the organizing the temple also. That's Kshatriya. He's doing both roles.
Mm. Hare Krishna.
But it's not necessary you play two roles. Better you play one
That's
role.
why my first question was about Dronacharya.
Huh?
Yeah.
Do that again.
No, what I was saying, Marge, that's why my first question was about Dronacharya, because he was a Brahmana Kshatriya. And then you answered is because the role of him playing the Kshatriya was because of, my role is, covering the needs of the Brahmana service.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an emergency.
Mhm.
And so
Yes,
you're in that
Maharaj.
same situation when there is a need, the Brahmins can go into it, they can play roles as the Kshatriyas. They'll never play roles as Vaishyas or Sudras, though, but they can play roles as Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas also can play roles as Brahmins, but that's only in time of need. That's all.
Mm.
Krishnadas Kaviraj Ji.
Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you, Guru Maharaj. All glories to all of the devotees. Guru Maharaj, I remember, certainly from the material perspective, this process of organizing people to do work according to their nature, the process was there. I remember around maybe 35 years ago, I worked in a government job centre, and everyone that came in, we would go through these assessment process, and we would find out what are their qualities since childhood, what are they innately good at, that kind of person are they, not just what they like and dislike today, but how that is that happening all through their life. And then we would steer them towards certain occupations or possibly towards becoming business people. And so, and then we would, and it seemed to work quite well, because then they would go away and do that, and would often get remarks like they're enjoying themselves and they think they found what they wanted. I think they found what was right for them.
But each one of the Varnas has values to it, personal values and characteristics, which allows them to follow that Varna the way it's supposed to be followed. Not that you get a greedy Brahmin or a Kshatriya doesn't care about people. So no, those things won't work. You have to have the qualities also. Not only the skills and the activities, but the qualities have to be there also.
Yes, that was there to some extent, and that we were looking at what do they want, what are they good at, what are their qualities to some extent, but not to the extent that you're imposing at the moment or suggesting at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, without education, you can't really evaluate properly.
Mm.
Mhm. I mean, Prabhupada started the society by just engaging people according to need, but he knew that was an emergency. He also felt, I could leave at any moment. So he wanted to do as much as he could, as fast as he could.
Thank you,
That
Raj.
didn't, but that didn't always mean it was ideal. But Prabhupada said, if you do it, I'll protect you. So he said that. Mhm.
So we're going on. Anyway, it has to be organized more. That's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Tripti Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, my humble obeisance to you, Guru Maharaj, my humble obeisance to Sri Prabhupada, and my humble obeisances and my Dandavat Pranam to all the Vaishnavas. Guru Maharaj, obviously we're talking about this Varnashram. I think if you remember, some time ago I was in a Soho temple and can't remember the name of the speaker, but he did a test and about the Varnash calculator. And obviously took my name and birth of place and birth date and everything to check my Varna. And obviously I told him that I'm born in a Brahmin family. And when he checked it, it come up to as Shudra. Not that it matters to me, because it's your karma that is important than any label of Brahman or Kshatriya. That's what I believed. But what my observation is, not now, but for a very long time, that especially in my own community, in Brahman community, we have very large community here in UK and back home in India. And I would say more than 50% of them are not doing the karma for what Brahmin is supposed to do, and doing completely opposite. And they are drinking and smoking and gambling and womanizing or whatever, and all these other things they're doing, which is completely opposite. And there are lots of like going through my childhood to my college and then coming here, met lots of people who are not Brahmin, and some of them are Shudras, and they're doing more intellectual, more good jobs, education, spiritual, and tearing all these
Yeah,
four.
well, that illustrates the statement by Narada Muni, where he says it's not by janma, it's by guna. It's by quality, not by birth. So,
Yes.
so yeah, you can be born in a Brahmin family and be doing Sudra work. Therefore, you're designated according to the work.
Mm.
Be born in a Sudra family and doing Brahminical work, you can be designated as a Brahmin.
Yes.
So it's not by janma.
Mm.
Janma has an advantage in bringing about that certain quality of that family into a person's character, but it just is an impetus, but it's not the final say. The final say is the activities, actually.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, that's right, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, thank you. Prabhupada tells the story.
Yeah,
I
and
just-
and sorry, just one more thing about your class yesterday. And we're talking about we were talking about other things, but about, you mentioned word greed about service, that you want to do service and devotional service and everything. And I met one of the devotee in my book distribution, and Nalini Devi Dasi, and she said that the Prabhupada used one of the word lolukam. I think I remember.
Lauyam?
I think she said lolukam or something. That's a word for Prabhupada used for being greedy for devotional service.
Lolium.
Is it lolium? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lauyam.
So what exactly it means? Sorry, if you can elaborate a little bit more.
That's self-explanatory.
That is exactly it is, yeah.
Yeah, but you just want more, you want to serve more and more and more. That's transcendental.
Okay.
That's not a bad quality.
Mm.
Provided you're actually doing the service in the proper way, it's benefited. The Lord is pleased, the devotees are gaining by the, not that you just want to do a lot so you can be known as a great devotee. That's not,
No.
that's false ego. That's Sudra.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah. Prabhupada tells the story. One Brahmin, he's pulling a Tunga. He's got a Brahmin thread. He's pulling a Tunga. So one man, he sees him. He says, "Oh, Panditji, give me Ashibad." So the Panditji puts his hand up and puts his hand on his head, and he says, well, how do you say in Hindi, long life?
Ayushman Bhava.
Ayushman Bhava.
Ayushman
Bhava.
Bhava. Yeah, so he gave him a blessing. Probably is ridiculous,
Mm.
It's because he's got a Brahmin that he thinks he's a Brahmin. Well, anybody can buy a 2-cent thread, Ayushman Baba. Baba.
Bhava.
Baba. Ayushman Baba.
Yeah. The common blessing we forget. Very common. Any final questions? Not, let me just see one more thing on the chat. Oh, okay. All right. So we're good. Maharaj, thank you very much for this wonderful lecture and also the discussion that came to enlighten us even more. Now we know some of the problems in this society, and we all can think of our solutions because it will benefit everybody anyway in the long run. So, Maharaj, can we do some japa?
I'm kind of a little bit behind in my work here because I just moved into a new place a few hours ago. And there's a number of things that are pending, so I'll have to pass today.
Okay. All right then, dear devotees. Well, thank you for coming. And if some of you want to stay and chant, I can just put on Sri Prabhupada's japa.